Why, hello there.
Well, hello there.
And we are live. Hey, Charles, how's it going?
I'm pretty good. How about you, Larry?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Pretty excited to be on air for the very first time.
Indeed. I see we
Sh-
have a few people joining us from a few different places, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter.
Yeah,
Great to have different
yeah,
people
of
from different
course.
places join us.
Yeah, and yeah, just we'll start off with some quick introductions. My name is Lauren, but everybody calls me Larry. I am the community enablement manager here at ShareGate, and as you've noticed, I'm joined by my good friend Charles here. I'll let you introduce yourself, Charles.
Yeah, hi. Well, Charles or Charles, if you're French speaking, we're in Montreal after all. I'm a customer success manager. I've been at ShareGate for over 5 years now, and can't wait to talk to you today about a few things that have been boiling up recently with ShareGate.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, we're both like I guess we're both old timers, right? I'm coming up on 7 years next week.
Yeah,
So
congrats.
yeah. So just to give you a little bit of context, so now that you know who we are, why are we here? What can you expect from this, and why are we going on air? So yeah, so as Charles mentioned, we want to get in touch with you. Basically, we want to hear from you. We want to chat with you. We want to give you news about ShareGate, everything that's happening. So please go ahead, use the chat functions, say hi, ask us some questions. That's why we're here. We're planning to do this, do more of those over time. So make sure to subscribe to whatever. Social platform you're on right now. So we're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And yeah, those are going to be quick chats. We're just quick drop-ins to chat with you. We plan on being on air for 20 to 30 minutes, depending on if you have a lot of questions or not. And yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Anything I'm forgetting, Charles?
I don't really think so. We're trying out something new. We want to get in touch with our customers wherever they are, and we know that
Yeah.
live events are kind of the thing right now, so we're jumping on the train as well.
Yeah, and we know like in the past 2 years, it's been hard to stay in touch. We're trying new things. It's getting easier now to get back on the road and meet all of you. But still, always trying to find new ways to interact with our customers and audience. So let's get it started, Charles. So
Yeah,
what happened? I mean, it's been a while since we didn't touch base with all of our audience in a live fashion this way.
right.
So what are the big things happen in the SureGate world?
Well, people might remember my face from a webinar that I hosted with Benjamin earlier this year when we launched the new ShareGate Home and the new kind of ShareGate experience. And we're want to give you maybe some updates on where we're at and why basically we did that kind of change, what was brought into the picture with this new one ShareGate that at least internally we've been calling it a lot, and sort of the progress that we've made since then and what we're really focusing on currently. That's really kind of why we're here and what we've been doing. The one ShareGate is mostly where we launched our new ShareGate Home, giving you an access to create an account with ShareGate where you can easily access all the different resources that ShareGate has to offer. Right now, it's not where you're going to be doing operations, but it's going to be a launching pad for that as we're evolving and want to offer different ways for our customers to be able to use all the different tools that ShareGate has to offer. So that's one of the things that's been happening, in
Yeah.
Q1 and Q2 that have been quite important.
So if you are a ShareGate customer, you've probably noticed those changes. So we're referring to like the big change in the user experience and the design also of the
Yeah,
platform. Try to make all the functionalities more accessible to you. So that was a big change for us, right?
yeah, indeed. That's for our customers, it's somewhat transparent. All the existing methods they use to know are still available to contact us to offer, but it's really a stepping stone for us to, I guess, with the one ShareGate is that we're focusing on 5 different pillars that are kind of the pillars of is actually we're familiar, people are familiar with migration, but we'll introduce a few more things like, well, or bring visibility on more things because that's always been there. I think we. Oh yeah, I think I just noticed that might have lost a bit of connection for a second there. Hopefully it wasn't that bad.
You
But
lagged out.
basically,
You lagged out for a few seconds, but we got most of it.
all right, maybe just a quick recap. The new, yeah, 5 pillars. Migration is obviously one of that. One's automation, provisioning, which will be coming later this year, and what we're actually focusing on today is reporting. There's been a lot of action, more visibility onto our reporting features, and it's actually important. Uh, no, okay, I'm still okay. My bad.
You're still there. You're a bit
Are we
blurry,
good?
but we can hear you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and just before getting on the call, you and I were having a chat, and we were talking about a call
Um,
that you had with a customer. I think it was earlier this week. And yeah, I'm curious if you can share a little bit about that call that you had with that customer that we officially called. It's not a real name, but we're going to be calling her Jenny for today.
yeah, we're still working the detail of publishing a success story with this person. Thing is, through our customer success initiatives, probe for NPS and surveys and so on. And whenever we get praises, we ask if people are curious or would be willing to share their success story. And this person was really adamant in the fact that beyond the migration aspect of the tool and what she was using it most, she really was combining reports to validate the progress and to also collaborate with the site owners to validate how good or bad that the migration was. Most of the time it was good, so that's great. What she was using is actually a permissions matrix report. She was running this against the source sites before the migration so that she could share with the owners, the site owners, or the site collection administrators, or both possibly. I can't remember in detail, but really a good way to validate if the essential part of the migration, which is making sure the people who had access to these sites still had the same access, was actually done properly. And she mentioned that, well, this report was really adamant for her progress and all the processes that she was using. So because it gave her the visibility and confirmation that yes, permissions did migrate properly. And one of the reasons she was using it this way is that it was really easy for end users who are not necessarily IT administrators to understand the permissions across their sites. What's nice also about that permissions matrix report is that it's user friendly, it's easy to understand. It gives you not only the permissions, but also a sort of structure of your site. So you can get a tree view of, okay, your site collection, your subsites, your lists and libraries with all the explicit permissions that are found on them. We're not showcasing all the details of the inherited permissions because you'll see them at the top where they're configured, on your site owners, members, and everything. But basically, all those more important ones that are sometimes a little trickier, or maybe not trickier, but you need to follow up on them, make sure explicit permissions are accounted for. And this
Yeah.
was an easy way to see all of that. So that's really where you know I was impressed by her story because it was going farther than just migration and leveraging this part of the migration process, but also on day-to-day management as well. Because reporting has been, probably now more than ever, a very important part of managing your SharePoint environment. By the way, hi from Montreal and from London.
Yeah.
Yeah, people
Yeah,
from all over.
it's funny.
Okay.
Like, well, yeah, it's hi to the original Double G from London and calling me out for not coughing in my elbow. Yeah, good eye. But yeah, it's funny though because we're not used to doing those on the social media. So typically we interact with people on a first name and last name basis. But I guess we'll have to get used to working with your social media aliases. But thanks for saying hi. And while Charles is talking about this success story from one of our from Jenny, and we're curious, like also share in the chat, like are there some success stories you've had using ShareGate reporting, or do you have like one ShareGate report that you could wouldn't be able to go without or live without? So make sure to share that in the chat.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear about
Yeah.
that.
But back to Jenny's story. So I know. So you're talking about there's a lot of reporting on the permission side during the migration. But was there any other kind of like important reports that Jenny used in that process? And I'm especially curious to learn also like outside of the migration, right? Because there's the whole aspect of migration. You need to have all that visibility over how you're doing that migration. But like, of course, then I think most of the reporting will be need to be done after because we're not going to
Well,
be upgrading from
right.
SharePoint versions like we used to, right? So your environment's going to be there. Like how did Jenny kind of like use those features
Yeah,
post
true.
migration?
100%. Well, I'm combining maybe a bit of a Jenny's story and other interactions I've had with customers. And one thing that comes up more and more now, and then we had this discussion when preparing for this yesterday, is that now that people are moving to SharePoint Online, they're not moving to another platform anymore. They're sticking to that SharePoint Online. So there's not changing from 2013 to 16 to 19 and then to the next on-prem version. Though
Mhm.
we do know that this is also bound to happen. There are other versions, but a lot of people are sticking to their Microsoft 365 environment. And before we saw a lot of revalidation and reporting and making sure everything was uh, as it should have been before the migration so that the new environment was clean and in a right order as you deployed to the end users. But now that you're sticking to that same platform, well, you need to stay
Right.
in the know and stay on track. You might have seen this on our website. It's kind of a catchphrase we have, but it's so true. If you don't know what exists, how can you really manage everything effectively? So reporting from the migration tool is really going to be a key sidekick, I guess, for you guys to really get a better understanding of what exists, how long it's been there, is it used or not, what are the permissions, as we were saying before, on these things, so that you can easily course correct. So permissions matrix report, definitely one important report that everybody should be using. If you haven't tried this, you
Yeah.
should. It's super simple. You go to ShareGate migration tool, make sure you have site collection administrator at least on that site that you're looking to get the permissions from, because permissions, they reside in the site collection after all. And then you just run it. There's basically 2 3 clicks, like find the site, click permissions matrix support, and you're going to get that whole information. But on
Yeah.
top of those permissions, you can run our site collection report to get an overview of, okay, how many sites, subsites there are in there, how large is it, all of the information that's required for you to kind of build your inventory. So your site collection report is quite useful. We also have, I was talking about what's been used that maybe you don't need to keep, or maybe you want to archive or set aside so that people just don't need to have this in all of their search results. Well, we have an
Yeah.
unused site report. It can easily be customized and gives you the visibility on sites where there have been no user modification, no files added, no files deleted in the period that you desire. So by default it's set
Yeah.
to 6 months. You could set it to a year, you could set it to a few days if you want to, though that's not necessarily very accurate on
Yeah.
actual usage. But it is something that's readily available, super simple to use, and gives you that visibility, as we were saying, since you're likely going to stick to Microsoft 365 for a while. So make sure that you
Yeah.
understand what's there and that you have an easy way to take action on some of the issues you might have over time.
Yeah, and it's funny because you were mentioning like the upgrading of versions, which is kind of like a thing in the past, but it's still very much, I think, embedded in the way that we've been managing SharePoint environments and now SharePoint and Microsoft Teams environments, right? So typically every what like 3 years we would get a SharePoint version.
Hmm.
And sometimes companies would like skip one. So yeah, so like every kind of like 3 years or more, there was kind of like this huge, call it a spring cleaning during that migration. But now a lot of companies are coming to that kind of like 3 year threshold where they've been in that environment and kind of like not really managing their SharePoint environment that much. So we're seeing a lot more customers coming to us like, we need, we need you to help us sort this mess,
Yeah,
because
with the
there's no, you can't just like flee your existing Microsoft 365 environment to like start up from scratch. You really need to kind of like just figure it out.
Yeah, no, definitely. And to go maybe even further on managing your environment through reporting, because I think I'm saying this a lot. We discussed this yesterday, and I kind of remember that reporting is not like one of your daily tasks. You're not saying, "Oh, today
No.
I need to do reporting. Today I need to manage permissions." How are you going to get there? Through reporting and then taking action on those reports. An example I could give: there's a way to build custom reports using our reporting tool, and in there, you can really get granular or very specific on what you're looking for. One thing I recently suggested, if you haven't seen information about this, the recording is available from a permissions webinar that I hosted with my colleague Shauna from Customer Success earlier in March. And in there, I showcase how you can create a custom report to find all documents that have custom permissions. It could be across one location, one specific list or library. You can run this against an entire site. You could run it against, 10 different site collections. That's what if that's the scope. And then we're going to pull all the documents on which there are custom permissions. If your goal maybe is to clean those up and return to inherited permissions from, the default SharePoint groups or whoever has those, initial permissions, well, from the results of that report, you have a feature that's restore inheritance. So you will basically remove all explicit permissions, have everything inherit back from their parent in basically a few clicks to build and create the report, and then select all items, click restore, and you're done. So this way you don't have to go and connect to multiple locations to try and do this and restore the inheritance. You're basically, I wouldn't have an exact click count, but basically with very little effort, you're really able to get that visibility and mostly fix it and forget about it. It's done. You're, restored inheritance. Now everybody that should have access is really through your SharePoint groups, and it's easy. And it's mostly across your entire environment if you want to. So easily available information and actionable reports, I think, is kind of the core of this message here. You can get so much value out of the reporting to help you keep everything,
Yeah.
clean and well organized.
Yeah. And just want to take this segue and just to remind everyone, just go ahead and don't be shy. Ask your questions in chat.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be exactly about what we're talking right now. If you've got just some general questions about ShareGate as a company, as individuals, or as a product, go ahead, ask those in chat. We want to be here to interact with you, so please don't be shy. And I was hearing you talk, Charles, and uh, also a recent conversation that we were having. I don't think you were part of that conversation. We were talking
Oh, no.
to our a good friend of ours, which I'll mention very shortly, and talking about a scenario where reporting came very handy. It was a scenario that's very true right now. I think is that in a lot of scenarios, some companies have duplication between SharePoint team sites and Microsoft Teams. Like, of course, your teams will come with a team site, but especially in the context of the pandemic, like a lot of companies were using SharePoint team sites alone, and then they were kind of like forced to start using Teams, and then people started adopting Teams, and that created some sort of like a duplicate in their environment. So they're stuck with like, well, I wouldn't say they're legacy SharePoint because it's not really legacy SharePoint, but like their old kind of SharePoint team sites and their new Microsoft Teams. And now that the dust is settling post pandemic, like people are caught with like, okay, well, I've got these two environments. People are collaborating in two different places where they should really be collaborating in one. It's a very suboptimal way of building your collaboration environment. And I know that's a very complex situation for organizations. And I think kind of like the
We can
first
help.
step to, yeah, we can help with that. But before we jump into that, I know we have an upcoming webinar with our good friend Susan Hanley, and that's the one we were having a conversation with.
That's where you're heading.
And yeah, so she's going to do a webinar just on that to help you kind of um, tackle that situation on like how do you bridge the gap between those two kind of like environments that you got created now. How do you identify that? How do you plan to kind of like merge that? And how do you address that after? How do you educate your users to better use SharePoint and Microsoft Teams simultaneously and together? So that's on June 22nd. So you can go ahead and register. We'll ask the our friends from the production to put the link. Oh,
Yeah,
there it is. We've got it's
just
there
came into the
twice.
chat.
Exactly.
Perfect.
So
It's there.
if you want to register that, Stu will have some really good cues on how to address that situation. But yeah, so coming back to ShareGate, is there anything we could do to help people kind of like, I guess the first start would be understanding what you're up against, right? So like,
Right.
how would you kind of like start off with that?
Definitely. Well, one way that we can help is kind of a combination of a couple reports. We've introduced a few months ago our team's summary report. So if you go to all reports, it's actually the one at the bottom of the list completely, and you can edit this report. You know what? I can share my screen. Yeah, I have this
Ooh,
kind of all set up. Screen
live
number
demo.
2. Yeah, a quick, simple demo. It's not really the right outlet,
Not a
but
demo,
just to
yeah.
give some visibility, as because it can be quite simple. You should probably now be seeing my screen and see under all reports. You do have okay, perfect. It's now showing on the stream. Excellent. So under all reports, you go to team summary report, and I'll suggest to actually edit this so that you can add one important information, because the report will give you the channel account, privacy, who are owners, members, and guests, but it can also give you the associated site address. So if you bring this into the results, well, once you run the report, you'll get the list of all of your teams, but mostly what's the associated SharePoint site address with it. So that's step number one. The other thing you could do is actually cancel. Well, you would run this, don't cancel if you're going to do it, but then you can run the site collection report. And this one, unfortunately, is not able to tell you whether the site is associated to team, but at least once you run the report, you can get the obviously the site address in it. And then you can export both of the reports to Excel, use some VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, or some sort of, formula, I guess, so that you can actually just get the resulting site collections that are really the from your team's environment, though you will get it just that from that team
Mhm.
summary report. But that's one way that you can have a better understanding of, okay, am I seeing on my site collection reports addresses that are, well, if they're not the same, are they maybe similar? Are we seeing that also have a site by the name marketing for this, and then there's a team that's marketing for this that also generated its own site collection? I guess then next step will be to attend that webinar with Susan to find out what to do and how to best handle it. But to at least identify them, ShareGate is
Yeah.
there to help you get there. So not very complicated. Site collection report, then team summary report, adding the site collection address will be one of the steps to help you get there. That's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the webinar with Susan is not strictly a product. So the webinar is not about ShareGate. It's really about addressing this kind of like problem more broadly. So if you wanna tune in, but yeah, I mean, I was while you were talking, I was thinking like, what date are we, and are we still in spring? I mentioned spring cleaning. Um,
Uh,
it would be fun.
Late
Like I
spring.
know late spring. Like it's until, well, it depends where you're from, right? So at least here
True.
in Montreal, it's still spring. But we understand it's not spring for everyone. But still, I think we can challenge you to a little spring cleaning. If you're a ShareGate customer, you already have access to everything Charles showed, so you can always go ahead and just do a little spring cleaning. Look at your unused sites, unused teams. And do a little spring cleaning. And if you're not a ShareGate customer, you can always get a trial. I know Anna shared in the chat. At least she shared it on LinkedIn. I don't think we shared it to everyone on all the platforms. But if you get a trial, you can actually for 2 weeks you can actually use those reports for free. So little spring cleaning before you have until
Mhm.
June 21st, right? So yeah, we challenge you to do
To
a
do it
little a
as a
little
spring cleaning, you have till June
yeah, even
21st if you're in northern hemisphere.
exactly. But yeah, so I mean, a little we don't have any other questions. I mean, I'm gonna have another question for Charles, but if you've got anything you want to ask us while we're live, go ahead. But yeah, kind of like a little closing statement, Charles. If you had one report that you could not live without, or like, what if there was one report to rule them all,
Right.
what would that be? What ShareGate report would that be?
Well, because enforcing your security, governance, compliance plan, whatever you call it, is quite important, and that relies on permissions. I'll
Yeah,
refer you again to our permissions matrix report. It's really
I had a
essential.
feeling.
Yeah, well, it's really essential, and it's an easy way to get that information. Otherwise, you need to run a few different reports, try to consolidate, but this way gives you an easy access to understand all the permissions. And then, I guess this is maybe for another session or something, but there are easy ways afterwards to manage your permissions using other features from ShareGate.
Mhm.
Obviously, pushing for for ourselves, but to answer the question very specifically, yeah, permissions matrix report would be the one report to rule them all. Though I could see so much value in many other things, but yeah, if you're gonna at least try one, try the permissions matrix report. You're gonna see how
Yeah,
useful it can be to help
but it's
you
true. Yeah, it is
keep
very
on
powerful.
top of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, it kind of gives
Definitely.
you that kind of like bird eye view over your permission structure and kind of visually allowing you to kind of make sense out of that mess, because we know how messy permissions can be in SharePoint,
Yeah, because
especially.
you leave end users to do what they need to do and allow self-serve and give them, a bit of leeway. And even with the best intent, not everybody understands or knows about
Yeah,
all the best practices or what are the practices in place for your organization. So it can lead to some hiccups and some errors and, potential risk, but this allows you to see them and easily fix them later on. So PMR. Yeah. Use
PMR.
our
Yeah,
internal slang. Call it the PMR.
yeah. We
We'll
could we
know
could do a whole.
we'll know you're an original.
Yeah, PMR. Yeah, we could probably do like a whole on air episode on the permission matrix report. Maybe we could. Actually, you know what? Like, if there are any topics that are relative to ShareGate that you'd like us to talk about in the upcoming ShareGate on air sessions, let us know. Like, if is there something that you're not familiar with that you'd like us to talk about? Is there yeah, are there things that you don't feel that you're getting as much value out as you could possibly get? Yeah, so don't be shy. Ask us, and we'll try to cover those in
Yeah.
the upcoming sessions. We're always looking for new ideas, a new concept. We want it to be driven by kind of like what interests you the most. And yeah, so I mean, we're coming up on 25 minutes. We said we'd be live from between 20 to 30 minutes. So
Yeah.
just a quick check in. So I think it's pretty much wraps it up for the first ShareGate on air. Am I forgetting anything, Charles, or people in
Mm,
production? I think we've talked about um, pretty much what we want, everything we wanted to cover. Uh,
I'd
so yeah.
I'd say, yeah. Thanks, Anna, for the reminder. Exactly where I was heading. If you need to learn a bit
Oh
more
yes.
about reporting or other ShareGate features. If you're ShareGate customer and you need to get more information, and maybe a support ticket is not what you're looking for because you don't have a technical issue, you just need to understand maybe a how-to, best practice, find out how others are dealing with similar situation. We have Ask the Expert sessions twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. I co-host with my colleague who's the team lead of the support team. So we have our actual technical expert, and then my general knowledge is there as well to help you out. It's really open to all. It's very casual, that kind of setting where we just have a couple topics to get the conversation going, but mostly answer questions. Kind of an office hours type of session. Otherwise, I'd say look up our website. Look about reporting. You'll find all the different features that are available. Give you some overview about them. So that's one way to learn more. If you're already a customer, we'll obviously dig into the tool, run some tests, or come to those sessions I just mentioned. So it'll be easier for you to, I guess, understand the extent of what you can do as far as reporting is concerned.
Right on.
And
All
I think
right.
that's it.
I think that's it. So this wraps it up for the first ShareGate on air episode. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to subscribe to the social media that you prefer, or all of them, up to you. So you're aware next time that we go live, so you can come and have a chat with Charles and myself again.
Yep.
And yeah, so until then, uh, yeah, have a great week, and yeah, we'll see you next time. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, everybody. Have
All
a
right.
nice day
Thanks,
or
everyone.
evening, depending where you are.
Exactly.